Oh, what is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande, bringing you the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream here on Tuesday. 6 games, James, and a lot of injury news has broken throughout the day. You and I recorded the podcast earlier today as some of that news came through. A little bit more news has come out since this afternoon. It's going to be a pretty interesting slate. We love this 6 to 8 game range. But now the player pool, at least in my mind, is kind of becoming a little bit more clear as some of these players get ruled out. I think some of the chalkier plays are kind of putting themselves to the forefront here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good value on this slate. And you and I were talking about it at a couple of positions. We are like, we don't really want to spend down here. I'd rather just spend up. And I think there's some really strong value in Charlotte with the Clippers that we could take advantage of and really help hone in on the spend ups here.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with you. Let's go over just some of the key injury news that has broken throughout the day. Of course, we know last night that Kawhi Leonard was not going to play today. That gives us Paul George by himself going up against the Pacers. Nice revenge game narrative. We know that he's going to be one of the more popular plays on the slate. And then obviously earlier this afternoon, we found out PJ Washington has been ruled out. Terry Rozier is doubtful, so that's going to open up some of the things there for Charlotte. As we mentioned, Kyle Lowry has already been ruled out for today. Malachi Flynn likely going to move right back in to that starting lineup. We have some questionables with guys like Trae Young. Looks like Dennis Schroeder is now probable. He had the injury tag on him. Jordan Clarkson is doubtful. So as we go through, obviously there's going to be more guys to talk about, but at least some of the key names there that we already at least have some clarity on.
Yeah, I mean, we're not waiting on that much, though, so that's good. Markieff officially listed as questionable. That was like the latest piece of news that we kind of got. I feel like everything else that we have, I mean, him and Drummond, I guess, would be like the only questionables. Right. Everything else is like doubtful, or we already have, as you mentioned. So we're pretty much until like Donovan Mitchell on the second night of a back-to-back is like suddenly ruled out. I'm just kidding. He's not. Please don't not play Donovan Mitchell.
Don't jinx us like that, man.
I know. I'm sorry. But I'm just saying, this is the first slate, John, in like quite a while where it feels like we have pretty much everything or close to everything that we need.
I agree with you. Just a couple game totals we'll run through here with the matchups. We have the Clippers and Pacers, 233 game total on that one. We have Atlanta and Toronto, 224.5. We have the Lakers and Hornets at 206.5. Pretty low there. I think that one may go over. That seems too low to me. 1 point spread in that game also. Thunder and Jazz, 221.5 game total there, but a 16.5 point spread. We have Miami and Phoenix at 217.5, 3.5 point favorites are the Suns tonight. And our second late night hammer, we have Boston in Portland, 230 game total there, 1.5 point favorites are the Blazers. So I think it's pretty obvious where we're going to be looking tonight. Game stack wise, for me, it's going to be the Clippers, the Atlanta-Toronto game. I love the Charlotte side of the Lakers game.
Right.
And then I think, the Boston-Portland game could be quite sneaky. There's a lot of high-end talent there. Maybe people won't really be on tonight because of the other value that's opening up around the slate.
John, you don't think the Lakers could be sneaky? Because I do think Charlotte is a really good stack. I think that's where we're going to get a lot of our value from.
I like Kuzma. If Markieff is out and Drummond is out, like that's going to open up things for Harold, Kuzma, THT more than likely going to find his way into the lineup. And as I was saying, KCP's been playing really well of late as well. So sure, I think that's fine. It's too if you want to go against Charlotte in this matchup. The Lakers are going to be fine too. But let's just jump into it. Ray Kuhn did the playbook today, James. Let's start off at the point guard position. It's something that you and I talked about earlier today. Was like, do we feel the need necessarily to spend up at the point guard position? He does list 2 spend ups here, quote unquote spend ups, and that's Trae Young at $89 to $9,100 and Dame Lillard at 88 on FanDuel and 95 on DraftKings as his 2 sort of high priced plays. Where does your interest lie in either of those? Do you feel like this is a need to have one of them in your lineup?
No. I think Trae is more likely to make my lineup than Dame. And I've been on this show, and you've been on this show, and Fancy's been on this show, kind of continuously kind of poo-pooing Dame just solely based on everything around him now, with Norm Powell and CJ being back and Nurkic being back, and honestly lack of production out of Lillard as well. So and the price hasn't gotten any cheaper. He's still $9,500 over on DraftKings. Right. I don't feel the need to play Dame. So if anything, I would lean Trey. I do think it's a great spot, and we've seen ceiling games out of Trey in 2 of the last 3, so you could definitely go there. But if I'm not playing Trey, I'm definitely not playing Lillard. I'm just going to go down. Today, for me, John, I think mostly I'm living in the value tier at point guard. And we talked about on the pod today, there is some pretty gosh dang good value at point guard.
There is. I mean, there's not only good value, I think there's a standout obvious option here. Right. And our draft percentages is sort of agreeing with us on this. And that's with Malachi Flynn with no right. Kyle Lowry. We see him at almost 50% projected draft percentage over on FanDuel tonight. $5,200, and he's $5,400 on DraftKings. Never really got a huge price bump up. He played next to Lowry the other day, looked okay. But now he's going to be in for another 30 to 35 minutes, a great matchup against Atlanta. He's going to be a core part of a lot of lineups tonight. Yep. We talked about it on the podcast with no true spend up. Nobody's, $11,000 today. No one's even $10,000 today on FanDuel. I assume it's probably similar on DraftKings. I haven't checked DraftKings today, but I think for me, Flynn just makes a lot of sense to put in that lineup.
Yeah, I don't think this is a very difficult thing to do. It's kind of a plug and play in all formats. Look, if you want to fade him in tournaments, by all means do so. But even with Lowry, he played 27 minutes. There's no Lowry. He's going to play 35 plus. So, fade him at your own risk. I do think there is good value at point guard. Outside of, so I do have some interest in Reggie Jackson. I think he's played very well. But I mentioned on the podcast, I would take a stab at Rajon Rondo tonight as the minutes continue to rise for Rondo. We saw him directly affect Terrence Mann, someone that you and I have been very fond of using this year. He affected Mann. I like where Rondo's been the last 2 games, 35 and 19 fantasy points. And then I think Brad Wanamaker is going to be pretty chalky tonight. He's already been in the rotation, 23, 23, 28 minutes the last 3 games with Terry Rozier, right? So now there's no Rozier. We could even see Wanamaker start. He played 30 minutes in the Indiana game on the 2nd of this month. Who's to say he doesn't start here or even just play 30 minutes, kind of like that Indiana game when he put up 27 fantasy points. So Wanamaker 3,800. He's one of my favorite values on the slate. Weird to say.
Would you pay 46 for Wanamaker on FanDuel?
Probably. Yeah, I think he's a good price. You could just play Flynn and Wanamaker and then move on to shooting guard where you have Mitchell and Booker and Paul George, who's going to be chalky,
Paul George this year without Kawhi Leonard on the floor, 37% usage rate, 1.6 fantasy points per minute. That's just
you lock and load. It's a lock and load.
Lock and load, especially like you mentioned in this matchup against Indiana. Again, draft percentage forecaster. You can get that as part of the NBA Pro package, but not telling you anything you don't already know tonight. We're looking at nearly 60% projected ownership on FanDuel, DraftKings around 50%. So he's the chalk. He's the cover of almost every piece of DFS content today for Fantasy Lamp. So not giving the secrets away here. We're big on Paul George tonight.
John, a secret that I think is no longer. Danilo Gallinari ruled out. Trae Young officially a game time decision. So something to monitor. We're at shooting guard. We have to talk about Sweet Lou, I think.
I think if those guys are ruled out, we can go there. I would probably need Trae maybe a little bit more to be ruled out than Gally really impacting that too much for me. I think this lock and load is just Bogdan more than anything.
100% locked in. But so if 100% locks Bogdan into whatever you need him in,
he's expensive now. He's $7K. So I mean, it's not the free play he used to be, but he's
still giving us 40 fantasy. Yeah, he's paying 40 fantasy points a game. Also, something of note, in the last game, which Trey sat, Brandon Goodwin played 37 minutes, 7 of 10 from the floor, 17, 8, and 5 for 36 fantasy points. John,
not bad.
If Trae Young sits, I know we moved on to shooting guard, but obviously this, is.
I feel like I've been burned by Brandon Goodwin chalk before, though.
Rank this though. Rank Goodwin, Wanamaker, and Malachi Flynn.
Flynn's still number one for me. Then I would go Goodwin. Then I'd go to Wanamaker.
Okay, and Rondo fourth, I assume. Just because
I would put Rondo ahead of Wanamaker.
Interesting. I would probably put Wanamaker third ahead of Rondo. I think Rondo is like the contrarian play of all four. I think you're underselling how good Wanamaker's been and the opportunity he would have. But I know you watched him in Boston for many of years, so I know he's not the most exciting guy. But
he's not the most exciting guy. That is for sure. Donnie Mitch, I think, still in play even against the Thunder. Back-to-back, whatever, just fantastic spot for him. No Ingles now, no Clarkson. So, who do you think benefits from the Ingles and Royce O'Neal being out?
And Royce O'Neal, right.
Bojan, obviously, he's a small forward, but, just kind of talking about that, positional impact here with Mitchell. I imagine Conley returns.
Yep.
Who enters the lineup, do you think,
I think Georges Niang. I think Georges Niang is the clear-cut guy that – they don't run a deep rotation.
They don't. They don't. No.
So I think Niang gets the immediate bump.
They had to check and see if Emmanuel Mudiay was still on that team or not.
Well, they traded for Matt Thomas. I think he's someone to monitor tonight. He's kind of been in the rotation here and there. He played 7 minutes last night, didn't do anything, but I think that he could be. They don't have guards, right? It's like Mitchell, Conley, and if this game, it's still the spread is still 16.
You got Maione, right?
Yeah, they have Oni. They have Trent Forrest, who played 12 minutes last night. So Forrest, Matt Thomas, Oni, and Niang. I think Niang is the guy that gets the biggest bump. We also have to probably throw Ersan's name in the equation. He hasn't really played.
Ersan may start, right? I don't know. Never know.
I would say Niang does, but. They could be more comfortable with Ersan starting because it's something that he's done compared to Niang.
Right.
Definitely something to note. I do think Niang is the best value of all those darts that we mentioned, though. I don't feel comfortable playing Matt Thomas, who played 7 minutes.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Any other shooting guards? You believe in the Gary Trent boost here?
Yeah, there's no anybody. There's no Van Vliet. There's no Lowry.
I guess if you had to pick Devontae Graham or Gary Trent tonight, where would you go?
I think Graham in cash and Trent in tournaments.
We just got Bembry ruled out, so.
Oh man. They're just Utah. They could. Is that 8 guys? Are they gonna have only 8 guys here? If that's the case, Trent could just.
I think Hood's still active. We're getting this news right now. Paul Wilson's still ruled out. I think Ronnie Hood's probably active still, right?
Rodney Hood is active. Trent's gonna play 40 minutes tonight against Atlanta, so I'm kind of flipping here from my original take of Devontae Graham. As much as I like Devontae Graham, I think there's more upside for Trent, and I think
they have nobody else.
Yeah,
and every being ruled out is even better for Flynn because he now they don't have guards. They're back down to 3 guards.
Actually, have no guards, right? Yeah. And you mentioned at the top, and I do think the Lakers Charlotte 206 is something to bet the over on, but Atlanta Toronto sitting there at 224.5. It's a better game environment for Trent as well. So. I think everything kind of points to Trent over Graham. I think they're both firmly in play, but I'm kind of leaning Trent's way right now.
I'm with you on that. Let's go to the small forward position. We mentioned already Bogdan. Bogdan, like him a lot. Miles Bridges was somebody that we were talking up during the pod, and then we got that news late. I think if anything that makes him much more appealing is $5,800 on DraftKings tonight. Back-to-back monster games out of him as well. And the minutes are just they have to be there. the Martins, both Caleb and Cody, are going to get in the rotation here, but I see we just think another like 35, 36 minutes for Bridges tonight.
Yeah, man. And I might take the over on that. I might take the over, and he might play 40 minutes again. So it's hard not to like him. It's hard not to root for him to dunk on somebody every time he's on the floor.
Yeah, and then of course the flip side, Kyle Kuzma. He's going to be. We love going small forwards against against Charlotte. We love basically going any wing and forward position against Charlotte. So I think Kuzma, especially if we find out that Drummond and Markieff are out, should be in a good spot there. Harrell is a high fantasy point per minute player, but not necessarily a high usage player. So Kuzma should be in a really good spot there. Any other small forwards for you sticking up?
This is one of those positions I mentioned at the top where it's like I'd rather spend up. I mentioned it on the pod. I like Lou Dort for cheap, but again, they got Roby back. Like they're getting healthier. They have a lot more guys tonight than they've had.
Right.
But Lou Dort played 30 minutes even in a game they lost by 24. So I think you could probably safely project Dort for another 30 minutes here.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Unless they go the big lineup like we've seen them go before. But I mean, then Dort could just start shooting guard, right? Like he's not like held down to that position. But on a smaller slate, I agree with you. Like there's not much more value here unless, like I said, if like a Caleb Martin was the start tonight, maybe I could have some interest, or a Cody Martin start tonight, I could have some interest.
Right.
There, but other than that, probably not too much. Power forward Jason Tatum against Portland. 3 straight double-doubles for Tatum, 3 straight games of over 10 rebounds. He's 9,200 on FanDuel. He's the top-priced option. But you're looking at Tatum, Sabonis, and Siakam really as the top tier here. How do you rank them 3 in their matchups?
I think Sabonis is definitely he definitely has like the toughest matchup. I mean, Portland is very bad defensively. Siakam gets Atlanta, who also is pretty bad defensively. How would I rank them? Probably Tatum, Siakam, Sabonis is probably how I would rank them.
Yeah, I would probably go that direction as well. Sabonis obviously always has that sort of like random triple-double in his bag that he pulls out.
Right.
But we're looking at Siakam with, a depleted Hawks front court. It should be a spot for him, I would think, to go off. But, we've also seen him lay eggs in similar situations before. So let's kind of hope that doesn't end up being the case here. Mid-tier, Jalen McDaniels is somebody that continues to stand out. He's $6,000 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think he's even a little bit cheaper. If I have
43, a little bit. He's 40.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, $4,300. I mean, like lock and load play. Yep. Even before the Washington news, before the Rozier news, we were going to be playing McDaniels. Now he's just a core play tonight.
Yeah, he's been starting with those guys, so there's no reason not to like him even more. So his draft forecaster percentage is way higher on DraftKings or on FanDuel than I thought it would be at $6,000. So I guess the masses really like him regardless. So if you want to play him in cash, you want to play him in tournaments, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then of course the Morris brothers, Marcus tonight, no Kawhi. Like how do you not play him, right?
Yeah, and it is interesting to note that Markieff is now listed as questionable. So something to definitely monitor as we head into lock. But because I like them both, but I do prefer Marcus. I think you could probably play 3 Clippers tonight. Pacers defense has been really bad lately.
Yeah, they're not very good. Center position tonight is where we kind of had a little bit of trouble.
I hate it. Yeah, I hate it. I still hate it.
I don't hate it as much as you do, though. I kind of like Capella against Toronto still, and he's at the top. But like this is a slate where I don't think you'll have trouble finding the money to play him.
Yeah.
The flip side of that matchup, Boucher, I think just by default and fingers crossed, recent performances, like he's gonna have to be there. And 67 fantasy points against Chicago.
That's what you think, John. That's what you think. You think recent performances would keep him in the lineup.
Are we going to see Henry Ellison tonight or something? Like, what's going to...
I'm just saying, like, Kem Birch, 30 minutes tonight, incoming.
You
think you're laughing because like, in your head, you're like, damn, that's like actually...
That's probably going to happen. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Boucher's fine. I actually would love Harrell if Drummond would get ruled out. That would be an elite play. And then we, initially maybe a little bit wishy-washy with Cody Zeller, but now with Washington out, it should give him another 25 to 30 minutes tonight. And you look at the last couple of games for him, 3 of the last 4 or 3 of the last 5, 26, 36, 35 fantasy points, double-doubles in 2 of them. He can give you that production. He's like an unexciting player to look at, but at the end of the night, you're like, oh man, like he had 35 fantasy points. Great, Yeah,
I think that's a fair point. I do think Zeller, it's something that we brought up live on the pod today. If you want to catch that reaction, we still have an hour before roster lock. The Washington news did help Cody Zeller quite a bit. So I do have much more interest there, especially in DraftKings sub 5K. It's a really good price tag.
Last guy I'll throw out there is Zubac, just with Serge Ibaka continuing to be ruled out. And Zubac got 35 minutes out of nowhere the other day against Detroit. So no Kawhi, no Ibaka. Maybe Zubac finds himself a little bit more secure in the rotation here tonight, $5,300.
How many Clippers is too many Clippers?
I mean, I'd only be playing 3 at the most. So
okay, just asking for a friend.
Are you playing 5?
No, in my construction, as we were talking about it, I ended up with 4.
We didn't talk about Luke Kennard, but like Luke Kennard's probably.
Well, I had Rondo. That was my one like off the board Clipper. Probably don't need to go there, depending on the Trae Young news, because you can just play Goodwin for who's going to play all the minutes. But just throwing it out there, I think Clippers. I mean that total has risen. It started at 228. A lot of people betting the over. It's at 233. So it's going to close at 233.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yep. All right, everybody. That wraps it up. Roster luck again is at 7:30 tonight. Playbook and core players are already out. Terry Rozier officially out.
Bang.
Once again, as we go to end
the buzzer,
something,
bro. At the buzzer.
We get the news. Value Vault is out already. Playbook and core plays are out. Listen to podcasts. You got plenty of time. It's only 30 minutes. We go over it a little bit more, of course. You can even rewatch this live stream if you wanted to. If you happen to miss it, go to YouTube, rewind it back, watch it from the beginning, get our takes on today's playbook. And the starting 5 write-up version will be out momentarily for everybody. But for now, where to reach us in chat and on Twitter. We will catch you guys next time.